Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee being held on the 10th of February 2021. This meeting is being webcast with the exception of any business that the Council resolves to exclude the press and public because of the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by the Local Government Act 1972. The declarations of interest. Okay, I'll just run through that and then in a moment I'll pass over to the legal officer in case I say anything wrong. But members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interests in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interests should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it is a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the Zoom meeting for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which can be made available to anyone. Okay, so that we will come on to that in just a moment, because agenda item number 1 is apologies. I have had apologies from councillors Emrys Wynne and councillor Julian Thompson-Hill. If there are any other apologies, can people just unmute now and say who there may be?
Chair, Councillor Young. Councillor Parry's trying to get in, so it's not an apology. It's just he's just messaged me saying he's still trying to get in. I don't know if he's in now.
I've actually he's here. He's here.
I've actually managed to get in, Chair. Just so you know, but I can't get in with my computer. It won't let me in. I'm in on my iPad, which isn't great because my papers are on my iPad. Yeah, I don't know whether IT are having problems with my computer or what. I'm not sure, but we had the same problems in meetings in a meeting yesterday with highways, and I think just for logging it on the record, I think we need to put it on the minutes that there are problems with these IT connections for these online meetings.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's noted. Thank you, Mervyn. That is important because obviously we were given the laptops for the exact reason to avoid the problems that you're now incurring. Thank you for that. Okay, so we've had those apologies. Any other apologies? Or we'll move on. Oh, I've got a hand up. Maidic.
Maidic, Councillor Maidic. It's Maidic. Yeah, Gwyneth Hensler. Yeah, she's unwell at the moment. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Yeah, so thank you for that.
So Gwyneth Hensler as well. Okay, so we've had those 3 apologies. Agenda item number 2 is declarations of interest. So again, I've just been through that. So if you, again, the easiest thing to do, because I can't see everyone, or if you've just got a hand up or anything like that, is just to unmute and to speak if you have a declaration of interest on any items due before us today. Okay, we'll assume there are none. If obviously at any point during the meeting today you find out you do have one, then obviously just make us aware ASAP. Agenda item number 3, urgent matters as agreed by the chair. I do not have any. Agenda item number 4 is the minutes, which are on pages 9 to 20 in the English. I have had a couple of emails from Cynghorydd Maidic Davies, so you may want to come in just in a moment. I'll bring you in if you just want to clarify exactly what those are as you're in the meeting today as well. That'll make it easier. But if we just go through the minutes from pages 9 to 20, and again, just stop me by unmuting and speaking is the easiest way just for this. Okay, so on page 9, and then on page 10, we had the application number 5 for GLANRAFON, which was also on page 11. And then page 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Councillor Maidic Davies. If I could come in, please, just It's just a minor typo on page 12, paragraph 5. As you say, I have sent this in. The word with dog has appeared in the first line. If you're looking at the English, with interest, it should be, if you could just look at that, I think that's a typo. Thank you. Thank you. We'll do that.
And also have noted that it should say Cynghorydd Mary Davis, and I think there's one where it says Gwyneth Kenzo, and it should say Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kenzo as well. So that's fine. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. And on page 13, I draw attention, Mr. Chairman, tonight. Yes, I thought that there was a bit more that I had to say at the committee that's been minuted. I asked about a bit more than that. Do you want me to read it out? Yeah, that's fine. If we include the following, first of all, refer to the plan, the local plan, development plan, bring in local people into rural areas. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Moving on to that was on page 13, page 14, and then page 15. We had application number 7, page 16. Still application number 7, and page 17 was as well, and 18. And then page 18 and 19, we had applications number 8 and 9. Okay, so can we have somebody propose that those minutes are correct? I've seen Alan James and Councillor Ann Davis to second. Thank you. So again, what we'll do for the minutes is if anyone disagrees with them and the slight amendments that we've just suggested from Cynghorydd Mary Davis, if anyone disagrees with those, could they unmute and speak now? Otherwise, we will assume that they are okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to today's agenda. We've obviously got 10 items up for discussion today. So if we could just, it will take a little bit of time because we have to go through the voting process, which takes a little bit longer as well. So if I could just remind members of the committee and members that are not on the committee as well, when we're speaking, we should try to limit the number of times we speak on any application to 1. Okay, we should come in and get all our points across and only really be seeking any matters of clarification rather than coming in a few times on any discussion, and for a maximum of 5 minutes. Okay, it's really, really important. Obviously, members of the public, it's a maximum of 3 minutes as in our standing orders. Okay, and we'll come to that in just a moment. The blue sheets, you should have got emailed to yourselves last night. Okay, there's quite a lot of information on there. That's going to be the running order of the day. So as you can see, it's not quite in the order of the agenda, but we will start off. Have officers got anything to say initially? No. Okay. So we'll start off with agenda item number 5, and I'll just run through that to begin with. Okay. We potentially have a public speaker on this one, but as we can see, there is an officer request, but I'll just run through it first anyway. So it's on page 21 of the reports. Agenda item 5, the ward is RUTHIN. The ward members are Councillor Bobby Feely, Emily Swin and Hugh Hilditch Roberts. The application number is 02-2020-0811/PF. The proposal is the erection of a detached dwelling, construction of a new vehicular access and associated works. The location is the land and park garden of 73A GOCH RUTHIN, LL15 1RS. And as we can see on the blue sheets, the officers, having regard to the tree consultant's comments, the applicant's agent has requested more time to deal with the issues raised. Therefore, officers request the application be deferred to allow the applicants to address the issue of impact on trees more adequately. Obviously, for this to happen, it has to be proposed. I can see, I think it's Tina Jones is proposing. Can you just speak and say that you're going to...
I'm proposing we refuse this, purely on the grounds this keeps coming backwards and forwards to us.
Yeah,
The officers.
Jones, we can't. If it's going to go to deferral, we can't discuss any the merits of the application. So that may happen.
Sorry.
It may happen if we don't defer it, but we just need to be. If we start discussing it, then it can't be deferred.
Right, sorry. Yeah, I'll come back after,
okay.
please.
So do we have anyone?
I'll propose, Joe, that we defer it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harry, seconded by Councillor Alan James. You seconding we defer?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I can see lots of hands up. It's just trying to visually see people from. We might need some new glasses. Okay, so we've had a proposal to defer, and it's been seconded. So we will go to the vote on that without any discussion on it. Yeah, I appreciate your point, Councillor Jones, that we obviously this was deferred from December as well, wasn't it? So again, we'll go through. We have to go through the vote, but I'll try and do it as quickly as possible. So if you're sort of unmuted and raring to go when I say your name, that'll be ideal because we've got to do this 10 times today. So Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor.
Councillor Mabon. Okay.
Okay. Councillor Ellie Chard.
Defer.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I should have made it very, very clear that if we're voting
Yeah.
to defer, so if you're saying for, it's for deferring. If you're saying against, it's against deferring. And if you're saying abstain or amatel, it's abstaining. Yeah. So Councillor Ellie Chard is deferring, for deferring. Councillor Ann Davis.
For deferral.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Evans.
For
Councillor Alan James.
deferral.
Councillor Brian Jones.
Catch hardly anything of what warm up.
Oh, yeah. We can't hear you, Councillor Brian Jones. Sorry.
Back to him at the end.
Yeah, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you at the end, Councillor Brian Jones. Okay. Councillor Tina Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Not here. Okay. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For
Councillor Joe Welch. 4. And Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Okay, so that item has been.
Chair.
Oh, Councillor Brian Jones. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Okay, it's not going to make any difference to any decision for that one. So we've got 13 for deferral and 1 against. So that item has been deferred. Okay, so moving swiftly on to agenda item number 6. Okay, so agenda item number 6, which is on page 57 of your reports. The ward is RUTHIN. The ward members are Councillors Emrys Wynne, Bobby Feely and Hugh Hilditch Roberts. The application number is 02/2020/0989/PS. The proposal is the variation of condition number 7 of planning permission code number 02/2020/0251 to allow the use of noise generating machinery between 0800 and 17:30 hours on Monday to Friday and 8 AM to 12:30 PM on Saturdays. The location is the former WYNNSTAY stores, Park Road in RUTHIN. And we do have a public speaker on this. Okay. So the officer recommendation is to grant on this. We have public speakers against and for. So the public speaker against will go first. And the public speaker against is Gail Banks. So you will have 3 minutes to address the committee. It is worthwhile. I do start a timer here, and when the timer stops, you do have to stop talking. So it is worth having a stopwatch by your side to make sure that you don't overrun and to make sure you get what you need to say across within the 3 minutes. So it will only start when you start talking. Okay. So whenever you're ready, Gail, then if you want to address the committee.
Lovely, thank you very much. Good morning, councillors and attendees. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my views and opinions. To give it context, I can't use any words to describe the physical proximity of the yard to myself and the other residents in my block that I live in. I have sent videos and photographs to the planning department, and I would respectfully ask members of the committee to possibly view them when possible. Since November 2019, I have voiced my concerns in regards to noise nuisance generated by the activities in the yard. There's been a marked difference between what's happening with G Parry and from the WYNNSTAY. For example, was there sawing in the WYNNSTAY? No. Was there a crusher being used in the WYNNSTAY? No. Was there a large industrial skip being used throughout the day? No. Were there large piles of wood and metal being recycled throughout the day? No. I am one of 3 objectors in the row of 4 houses. The yard is 12 or less meters away from myself, and the boundary of the amenities is less than 2 meters away. The other 2 sides of the yard, i.e. the male childcare and the resident from directly opposite the site, are also in objection. So in essence, 3 sides of the yard are objecting to this. In July 2020, the applicant confirmed that there would be no use of machinery or power tools on the site after it was being renovated. 7 conditions were attached to the granting of this change of condition and the use, 6 of which recognised the need for the protection of residents in the local amenities, which was a safeguard for ourselves in the future should they want to change it. Continual breaches of these conditions were highlighted by the planning department, with the real big disturbance being the introduction of the crusher in September. This was a breach of condition 7. The crusher is a loud piece of industrial kit which has a drone-in banging noise and echoes around the yard wherever it's situated. This noise affects the amenity of the surrounding residents. I don't see why residents need to adjust or change their ways of life to accommodate this. In December, the business was issued with a breach of 3 of the 7 conditions. My concern is that the activities only change when they have to, i.e. when there is an enforcement notice to change any of their practices. My fears and concerns are if the removal of condition 7 will open the floodgates for more noise generating activity to take place. This will affect our amenity, both being able to work here and amenity to relax in our open space and our privacy settings. This business can take place and operate anywhere. Our homes are here where we live, work and relax, and we shouldn't have to adjust our way of life to accommodate a business and lose our amenities in the process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and we have a public speaker for this application as well, which is Mike Hall. So if Mike is ready, as soon as you start talking again, just say, as I said before, it's worth timing it because that last one was 3 minutes bang on exactly. And that is exactly how long you have to speak. So whenever you're ready, I will start the timer.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. G Parry Home Improvements is a building and property development company. We started trading in 2006 from my home in RUTHIN, and over the years the business has grown and we have moved a couple of times as we have grown previous trading sites. We employ 42 local people between the ages of 18 and 73, and over the past 10 years we have seen through 10 apprenticeship schemes for local youths. We carry out 50% of our work directly for Denbighshire County Council, carrying out your void refurbishments and disabled adaptations. As a result of our success in this void scheme, we have just become an approved contractor for the Wrexham Borough Council void scheme, which starts in April 2021. This is a great opportunity for us to expand our business and create more local opportunities. The rest of our work covers a wide range of customers, including local authorities, housing associations, private individuals and our own developments. Within our own developments, we purchase rundown properties in the area that haven't been lived in for many years, redevelop them from top to bottom, and then let them out to local people and families who need good quality homes. At our yard, the main activity is back office support. We have 5 people who work in the office, and they have 1 warehouse person who works 4 days a week, ensuring the goods are received and stored in the yard, and we operate the most economical solution by buying bulk products, breaking them down on site and recycling materials to minimise our waste and environmental impact. The rest of our team, the tradespeople, are on various other sites between 8 and 4:30 in the day. They only come to the yard to find out where they are working, coordinate their work, and collect and drop off materials. We do not manufacture, produce anything at our yard. We do not have any fixed plant or machinery on site. The noise we make is from moving materials and plant around the storage yard, unloading materials, loading materials, the occasional use of hand tools, and preparing for materials to be taken to site, and the recycling of materials to reduce our waste and environmental impact. The site has been a commercial site for over 50 years, with all previous businesses making considerably more noise than this during a normal day, and they did not have any restrictions on them. Originally, the site was a sawmill, and then it was a farmer's distribution and wholesale business. When WYNNSTAY Farmers moved the site was empty and unused for 2 years. The site became an overgrown eyesore. The noise from the site was zero, and surrounding residents and businesses got used to having no one around. When we moved in, we redeveloped the site, and during the first few months, we did make a lot of noise. Since then, we have worked with the local council to ensure the site was set up to minimise the impact on our neighbours. Just like to draw your attention to the minutes on the 15th of July 2020, when you proposed and granted the change of use subject to the removal of condition 7.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, so there is quite a lot of information on the blue sheets that has come through in the last couple of days. Additionally, there is an additional condition, so condition number 8, which is important that you view on there. And I will just bring in the officers at the beginning before I bring in the local members, just to clear up what happened at committee in July last year with the removal of the condition and why it was removed and what was put on in place. So what's coming before us today. So hopefully that will clear that all up before we go into the debate. So I'll just bring in Paul Griffin on that aspect.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to clarify why we're discussing this condition now. Planning Committee back last summer, when this application was initially considered, officers made a recommendation that noise generating equipment should only be used between the hours of 8 o'clock and 5:30 Monday to Friday, as per what we're looking at now. During the debate, the Planning Committee in the summer decided that they saw fit to say, actually, we don't want any noise on there. So the condition suggested by officers was deleted and replaced with a condition suggested by members, which was that there should be no noise generating equipment used at any time on the site. Now, I think just to sort of go to where we're back, the applicants looked at that and has found that to be unreasonable. They can't actually operate in the way they need to operate if that was the case. So they've come back to us and asked for that original condition to be put back on, allowing them some scope to use noise generating equipment such as hand saws, drills, and so forth. We've consulted with the public protection team again, who on the initial application raised no objection to our suggestions. And they've again said this is a perfectly reasonable condition and that they've been to the site and they've seen it in operation and that they don't have any concerns from a statutory noise point of view and that this site is acceptable to allow hand noise generating tools. The only comment they did make was that there was a potential for the rock crushing equipment to generate a problem in terms of noise and disturbance. On that basis, essentially, if that was left unchecked and they were able to use it for 5 or 6 hours a day, that could easily become a problem that was harmful to residential amenity. Therefore, it's been suggested that the use of that is limited to 30 minutes per day. That's what you can see in this recommended additional condition number 8. So I think that sort of summarises what we're looking at. We're going back to an original condition as suggested by officers. We're adding an additional condition now to put further controls on to help. I hope that clarifies matters.
Thank you. Okay, so bring in the local members. I know that the local member on committee, wish him well today. He's having his knees done, I think, or one of his knees done. So bring in Councillor Bobby Feely first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello to all the committee members. I'm still sorry we can't meet in person, but that's the way it is at the moment. We've just got to put up with it. I just wanted to make a few points in favour of the applicant. This site, just to give you a little flavour, yeah, the site in question, my voice is reverberating. Is there anything can be done about that? Or can't anybody hear it but me?
No, it might only be you that can hear it, but it might be because somebody's not on mute.
Okay,
so everyone has to make sure they're on mute.
I'll plough on. This site in question on Park Road has had a business on it for in excess of 40 years, ever since I have lived in RUTHIN, apart from when the site is being marketed. The previous companies, including the former WYNNSTAY stores, have all had storage, regular movement of lorries and vans and equipment, and intermittent noise. There have not, to my knowledge, had been restrictions previously. Can I just say that this is not a leafy suburb, but a site positioned on the edge of a busy main road, around the corner from Tesco and close by to the Lomparker business estate. Parry Builders are a well-established local firm providing work for around 40 people. Over the last year, people who had previously travelled to their place of work now, because of the pandemic, work at home. Sadly, this does mean a certain amount of daytime noise will be heard. The Planning Office has recommended in favour of this variation, which is removal of the condition number 7 to allow the use of noise generating equipment, restricting the hours to 8 to 5:30 on Monday to Friday and 9 to 12:30 on Saturdays. I think it's fair to say that this company is a good and responsible employer. They are conscious of the environment and recycle at every opportunity. I would say that they have bent over backwards to try and operate without disturbing anyone living in the residential properties nearby, and I hope the Planning Committee will vote in favour of this variation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hugh Hilditch Roberts, do you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, I want to ask a couple of questions, Joe, then I'd like to come in at the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bobby's touched on the history of the site, so I just want to, the history that I remember it when I was growing up in Little Shorts in RUTHIN was that it was actually a frozen food site when it started, like like an Iceland type place. And you know, I have very fond memories of that. But what I want to just clarify with the officers, when I read the conditions, which talk about circular saws, drills, nail guns, and I'm just trying to understand how is a industrial unit meant to operate without using those sort of things? Because I'm a bit confused, because I understand that the planning that was granted on this site was to formalise the conditions on the site, because they were quite loose in the old planning conditions. And I remember being, maybe it has to declare an interest, I was a customer of the WYNNSTAY, but every time I went there and they were delivering a lorry load, they were, what those things that go up and down, you carry things with, what they're called?
Forklift truck?
Forklift trucks, as you see, I'm not into manual things.
Neither am I.
And I live a mile away on road from Llysfasi, and every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning when they're feeding the cows, I hear the forklift truck back up, and the beep 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 I can hear come over the fields. So I'm just questioning, what's the difference between those things I just called that go beep 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 and a drill or a chainsaw? Because I just try to understand where you're coming from, as in what is noise, because when I had originally read this, it just said to me, well, you can't do anything in the day other than what you can do inside and keep your windows closed. So I'm just trying to understand what's the difference between, you know, a big Arctic coming with a forklift delivering things, you know, food, bales, hay, etc., and moving around the yard all day to this condition. Because can officers just explain to me what the difference is from the old to the new, and why this trading? Because I wasn't at the last committee. Apologies. And then I'd like to come back at the end once I've heard the debate, if possible.
Yeah, that's fine. I can explain it for you. When it was the former WYNNSTAY stores, there were no conditions at all. They could have made noise at any time at all. The officers just wanted to put a condition on from the hours that we've got. We as a committee decided that we wanted no noise at all. So it wasn't officers saying there should be no noise. Officers were saying there should be noise between certain hours. We as a committee gave them planning permission, but said there should be no noise at all. That was what was proposed by Councillor Emrys Wynn, and that went through. Obviously now what G. Parry is saying, the applicant is saying, is we can't operate like that. So we would like the condition that the officers were suggesting in the first place. That's the condition that we actually would like, rather than there to be no noise at all.
Just for clarity, Mr. Chair, if I can.
Yeah.
So the committee recommended that an industrial unit, more or less on an industrial estate, should operate with no noise.
Yes.
Really? Okay.
That was what the other local member who is not here today, that is what he proposed last July. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So we've got a few speakers on this. We've got Councillor Brian Jones.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me now, Chair. I've moved location to a more suitable reception point, so can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, just a point on wind and noise. If we're standing at a point on the ground and the wind's coming from the southwest this morning, and that's the direction where the noise is being created, we will hear that noise to a greater level, to a greater decibel level, than we would if we were standing at the same point the following day and the wind was coming from the northwest. So I just wanted to make that point on noise and wind, and it does affect it. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, the debate about the noise in an industrial unit. It's obvious you're going to get noise. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Ann Davis. You're on mute if you're speaking, Anne.
Just a couple of questions. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. The generator you mentioned, it could be limited to 30 minutes per day. How will that be monitored? Who's going to police that? The concern I've got here is a mention of dust. Now, it's a well-known fact that inhaling dust does have serious and can have serious health implications. We hear about children playing outside. That is a main concern for me here. And could I ask, are there any noise barriers in place?
Okay, thank you. I'll just bring in Councillor Mervyn Parry as well, and then the officers can answer those. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit confusing this morning when I was looking at the condition 7 of having no noise at all on an industrial site. We on a site, we all know is an industrial site, and I think the hours that they're proposing on this application are very reasonable. So I'd like to propose we go with this condition, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you. So a few other people as well. Yeah, so just to clarify, that is you're proposing 7 and 8, yeah? So it's condition 8 that's on the blue sheets as well, Councillor Parry? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that's that. So bringing officers just on the points that Councillor Ann Davis raised, and then we'll see if there's any more speakers, and then we can go to the vote.
Diolch. Thank you, Chair. Bore da, good morning, everybody. Hope you can hear me as well. Yeah, just in relation to the questions that Councillor Ann Davis had raised there, any planning condition that we impose either at planning committee or via officers does have some level of enforcement with it, as has already been alluded to from one of the public speakers. We've had to intervene here formally with breaches of condition notice because obviously there has been evidence of breaches of previous conditions. Again, we are suggesting an additional condition number 8 here for the rock crushing equipment to only be used 30 minutes a day. Clearly, we're not going to be able to post an enforcement officer down on site to sit there and watch what goes on all day and make sure that it's only 30 minutes. So we are proposing an additional note to the applicant on this particular item to try and keep a log of when they use the rock crushing equipment. Clearly, there's going to be people nearby to the site that will also be monitoring, I would imagine, in terms of that particular condition. So I think it's in everyone's interest that that condition is complied with. And it would prevent us from a local planning authority perspective having to intervene from enforcement. So in answer to the question, Councillor Davis, I'm sure there'll be monitoring that will take place, and it's in everyone's interest that that condition is complied with. In relation to some of the other issues that have been raised there around dust or any other pollution, clearly the local planning authority can't deal with all of other pieces of legislation that are out there that deal with health and well-being, noise, pollutants, etc. So we do have a public protection team that also look into these types of sites and look at noise and dust and light pollution, etc. So there are statutory noise nuisance controls that also exist in excess of the local planning authority controls that we're debating today. So hopefully that answers the questions. Thank you.
Councillor Ann Davis, do you want to just come back on that? Yep.
Now, could I have an answer to the noise barriers around the site, please?
Okay, noise barriers.
I'm not aware that there's any noise barriers around this particular site, but again, I go back to the original point. The local planning authority does have planning controls now, as you can see from the papers, in relation to when equipment can be used. That's what we're here to debate today. If there are any other noise issues that exceed the sort of statutory noise levels that exist under the pollution control requirements, then our public protection colleagues can intervene. As has been debated earlier in the debate, that this is a site that has a history of industrial uses and commercial uses, and therefore noise barriers haven't been considered suitable previously, and there is no noise barriers on the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll bring in Councillor Paul Penlington. I can see Councillor Hugh Hilditch-Roberts is, I think you're putting your hand up rather than applauding, because that's the Zoom way. But I'll bring you in after Councillor Paul Penlington. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. I was going to ask about the rock crusher, but Paul Mealy just answered that question. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hugh Hilditch-Roberts.
I just wanted an answer on my comparison from a forklift truck to a drill noise question, really. And also, can you just check, Chair? You said that it was a in the minutes, it says that the planning committee passed in July passed this on the recommendations of officers, and it doesn't talk about an amendment. Is that the case? Because I just want to check, because you said it was an amendment by the local member.
Yeah, maybe I will bring in Paul Griffin just on that one, just to clarify all of what went on with regards to that, because it is obviously quite a pertinent point. Okay.
Yeah, because I wasn't briefed on that. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate that the minutes refer to the local member who was proposing to grant. He requested that our condition limited it to certain noise generating equipment to certain hours of the day be removed. That's what the minutes reflect. What he actually said in the debate was that because he didn't want any noise operating equipment on the site at the time. So if we hadn't have redrafted the condition to say no noise generating equipment, then there would have been no control whatsoever, and it would have been the complete opposite of what had been discussed and decided by the planning committee. So we have to put that condition on because that actually reflects what the committee debated and voted upon. In terms of the difference between beeping and minor use of hand tools, well, I think that actually reflects the officer's point of view. We've always argued, and I think the previous report is that the existing or the fallback use of the WYNNSTAY stores was that there was a degree of noise that was always going to be generated and was completely uncontrolled. In granting the consent to the change of use of the builder's yard, it's totally within the planning authority's gift to put conditions on to try and improve a situation. The reality is the WYNNSTAY stores could have operated at any time of the day or night without any control from us. So there's that balance where we have to be reasonable, and that's the condition that we're looking at now, is this reasonable control of, okay, the WYNNSTAY could have operated as it wanted, but the applicant is now asking for a different use and we are allowed to put conditions on. Our view is that the use by a builder's yard, the way that is explained by Mr. Hall, is not dissimilar to the way that the WYNNSTAY stores operated, and it was in benefit of everyone to put these controls on limiting the hours of use. I hope that clarifies a little bit. I fear we're getting a bit sort of bogged down in, you know, the reality is the applicant is asking us, can I use hand tools and power tools between 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock at night if we need to? And the officers are saying, yes, that's reasonable in this instance. Thank you.
Okay, you happy with that?
Yeah. Can I just do quickly, please?
Yeah. Councillor Larkin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I just want to come back to Councillor Emrys-Wynn was obviously trying to be helpful on the day, and he's not here today, but I do stick up for him because without that, maybe he wouldn't have gone through last time. I hear what everyone's saying, but I want to make the point that Councillor Emrys-Wynn was trying to be helpful on the day. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, yeah. That's is very important. It was to do it, and the condition as it currently stands is that no noise generating equipment shall be permitted to be used on site, including, and then the list of them. And yes, you're right. That was what Emrys-Wynn was proposing. So that was all fine. Okay, I think we've debated that. We've had a proposer for it, and we've had a seconder for it. So if we're happy, we will go to the vote. So if we just are very clear on what we are voting for here. So if we vote for or oblige, we are voting for the condition 7 and condition 8 on the blue sheets. So both of those and the times there. I know people, when they've been speaking, have sort of been saying between 8 and 5 and whatever, and this and that. So if we just be very clear on the timings that we've got there for Monday to Friday, and which hours they are on the Saturday, so that we know what we're going for, and we will start if we're all happy. I can't see anyone shout if you're not. So Councillor Ellie Chard.
Obliged.
Deal. Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Evans.
For.
Councillor Alan James.
Obliged.
Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Councillor Mark Young.
For.
There are 16 of us, and there are 16 that voted for, no against, no abstain. Therefore, that application has been granted. So thank you for that. If the public speakers for that can now just leave the Zoom meeting, that will be great. Thank you very much. And we are moving on to, I imagine we will have to have a break today as there are 10 items. The plan is to get through the first 5 and have a break after all the ones that have got public speakers are on. Okay. So we are now moving on to agenda item 8, as the blue sheets suggest. So there is a little bit of information on the blue sheets, but I will just go through the running of it as I would usually. So it's on page 97 of our reports. The ward is Llangollen. The ward members are Councillors Graham Timms and Melvin Mile. The application is 03-2020-0909/PF. The proposal is the erection of one dwelling, construction of a new vehicular access and associated work, the Lander and Park Garden of 15 Maesbach, Llangollen. And as you can see, the information on the blue sheets, officer recommendation is to refuse. We would have a public speaker on this, but there is some late representations from Natural Resources Wales regarding a phosphate sensitive area. So having regard to the late representations from NRW, officers request that the application be deferred to allow the applicants to address the issue of impact on the River Dee SAC. So do we have somebody that would like to comment? Thank you, Councillor Melvin Miles, seconded by Councillor Alan James. Thank you. So we are going to the vote with no further discussion on this. So again, if you can be unmuted as I say your name, we'll race through this. Councillor Ellie Chard.
Grant deferral.
Yeah, so again, similar to the first deferral, if you say for, it's for deferral, against, it's against deferral, okay?
Fine.
And abstains, obviously abstaining. Thank you, Councillor Ellie Chard. Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Evans.
For.
Councillor Alan James.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Thank you. Therefore, that's 16 and that for deferral, 0 against deferral, 0 abstaining. Therefore, that application has been deferred. Moving on to agenda item number 11, which is on page 181 of our reports. Okay, so agenda item number 11. So the ward is Prestatyn East. The ward members are Councillors Julian Thompson-Hill and Councillor Anton Sampson. The application number is 43/2020/0907/PF. The proposal is the proposed erection of first floor extension and associated works. The location is Brigadoon 2, Talton Court, Prestatyn, LL19 9HF. We do have public speakers on this. Let me just get to the point. Okay, officer recommendation is to grant. There is a little bit of information on the blue sheets, about halfway through our blue sheets. There is no public speaker against, but we do have a public speaker for, and it is Susan Brown. So you will have 3 minutes to address the committee. When you start speaking, I will start my timer. It might be worthwhile having a clock there as well, because we are very strict on the 3 minutes, just to make sure you're aware of that. Okay, that you will be asked to stop speaking if you continue after the 3 minutes. Okay, so as soon as you start speaking, you'll get your 3 minutes. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, firstly, I would like to thank the Chair for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak and introduce myself. My name is Susan Brown and I've lived in Prestatyn all my life. I live with my husband and 2 children who both attend the local high school. I work for the Welsh Ambulance Service locally and have done for the past 22 years. The proposed scheme needs to meet the demands of my growing family and into the future with the new ways of working. Myself and my husband are working from home, and together with homeschooling also adds to the demands of the proposed development. Having never done this type of development before, we have been working very hard with the planning officer and the design team to meet and achieve the required recommendations. The scheme has been carefully designed to make the most of the position of the existing house and to give us the best views out to sea. In respect to the concerns over the street scene, there are also a large number of nearby properties in Prestatyn
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will go to, I'm not sure if there are any local members. I know somebody wants to speak on behalf of Julian Thompson Hill, so that might be Councillor Tina Jones.
Yes, thank you. Julian has sent through a statement here he's asked me to read out. It is as follows. As you will be able to see from the plans, Talton Court is located significantly higher up the hill than Talton Crescent, so inevitably there will always be some element of overlooking of properties at the lower level. However, given that I do still have concerns about the proposal, this represents a significant increase in the height of the property, and that cannot help but increase the overlook of properties in Talton Crescent. And even though the applicants have reduced the amount of glazing proposed at the front of there remains an increasingly negative impact on the residential amenity of the occupiers of the properties on Talton Crescent. Whilst I accept that officers have found that the proposals do not constitute over-intensification action of this site, I do believe that the increase in mass and scale of the proposals, taking into account the fact of significantly higher topography, would constitute a negative impact upon the amenity of neighbours' low-lying properties. Were I able to be present today, I would have been proposing refusal on those grounds.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, no, that's fine. Obviously, as he's not here, just to remind members, obviously he cannot propose that, which I know he wasn't suggesting he could. Just so we're aware that there hasn't been any proposal or anything. So we've got Councillor Paul Penlington wants to come in.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't realise Julian sent a statement in. I was asking to speak because I'm a PRESTATYN member, but this isn't my ward, obviously. I do know the area quite well, though, because I walk that way frequently. As somebody's already said, it's already on a hill, and that's quite a steep hill, so all the houses overlook each other already. It's well within all the guidance as stated. It's 50 metres away from the only objector. I think it should be noted the immediate neighbours have not objected. There's only a couple of objections from 50 metres away, which is a considerable distance. I mean, and the applicants have made all sorts of provisions to allay their fears. So I'd like to propose we grant it.
Okay, thank you. So proposal to grant in accordance with officer recommendation. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Peter Evans, I think that is, yeah. So Councillor Peter Evans has seconded that, thank you. Okay. Do we have any other speakers on this? Obviously, the officer recommendation is to grant. So what Councillor Paul Penlington has said is enough information in terms of needing to go to the vote. Does anyone else want to speak on this item? Okay. We will go to the vote then. as always, we'll go through the voting list, and it will be for or obliged if you want to vote to grant in accordance with officer recommendation, against officer recommendation, to refuse the planning application, and or abstain. Okay. So Councillor Ellie Chard.
For.
Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Councillor Peter Evans.
For.
Councillor Alan James. I think you might have already said for. But can you just say again, Councillor Alan James? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Obliged.
Thank you. Councillor Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Lyle.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Melvin Parry. Councillor Paul Panlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Councillor Mark Young.
For, and I wish them well on the build.
Thank you. Okay, so that is 16 for obliged, 416, and Edbin against 0, Amatel abstain 0. Therefore, that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. Thank you, and good luck with the build. Okay, so we are now moving on. This will be the last item that has a public speaker on it. So we're moving on to agenda item number 12, which is on page 201 of our reports pack. And the ward is RHYL East. The ward members are councillors Tony Thomas and Councillor Barry Mellor. The application number is 45/2020/0897/PF. The proposal is the erection of one dwelling, detached garage, means of access and associated works. The location is the land at the rear of 2 Elm Grove RHYL, LL 18 3PE. We do have 2 public speakers for this. There is also a little bit of information on the blue sheets. If you remember, this application was deferred from a little while ago. The officer recommendation on this application is to grant. We have public speakers, and again, if both public speakers are in, okay, just so I'll say this just once. Okay, you have 3 minutes to address the committee. As soon as you start speaking, I will start the clock, and you have 3 minutes exactly. Okay, so it might be worth just having something by your side to time the 3 minutes, because we do cut you off at that point. Okay. We have a public speaker against who will go first, which is Mr. Gordon Milton. So when you start speaking, I will start the time. Okay. So
my name is Gordon Milton. I live at 11 Real Coast Road with my wife and 2 elderly parents. My mother-in-law has severe mental health issues resulting from a catastrophic nervous breakdown, which resulted in PSD and other serious mental health issues. And to be frank with you, this proposed building is causing a huge amount of worry and extreme stress, which is alarming to us as a family. I've elaborated more in my letter to the planning office, and I've also sent in a letter from Mrs. Wally's psychiatrist. Indeed, this proposed building work and its effect upon Mrs. Wally's health is cause for great concern amongst the doctors and not just us as a family. I also speak for my neighbours, Ken and Melanie Dawes and Alan Evans of Elm Grove. We all strongly object to this planning on the following grounds. Number 1, the loss of privacy. This build will look straight into the rear of 2 and 4 Elm Grove. There's a conservatory at Mr. Evans's property, and this will take away their privacy. As for the Daweses, they are very upset that the front windows of this build will look into their children's bedrooms. We also feel this new build will shade our gardens, especially mine, as the build would tower above our little chalet, which we have at the bottom of the garden, and the winter sun would be totally obliterated. The loss of wildlife, the birds, hedgehogs, squirrels, and we do have the occasional urban foxes that live on the site would be permanently displaced. The site, which was originally an orchard owned by Councillor and Mrs. Esprit, had been left to the wildlife for at least 35 years, and this would be a great loss to the area if this habitat was indeed lost. The hedgerow concerns have not been addressed. In the revised plan, in fact, it's worse. the small cultivated bushes on the inside of a 1.5 meter fence or a 750 mm wall, as indicated in the revised garage and site plan, will in no way compensate for the loss of the existing tall, thick and well-established hedgerow. So the local landscape character will be changed completely. The new existing site plan is misleading. The existing hedgerow actually comes further west, right to the edge of the existing curved wall, much nearer to the existing garage that the plan suggests. In the original plans, the council insisted that the hedgerow should be kept. So what has changed? So Mr. Evans says there could be damage to 4 Elm Grove from service excavations. The excavations in the lane will be required to provide power, water and other services to the proposed building and would be by necessity very close to 2 and 4 Elm Grove, and so would be likely to cause further vibration damage to the house. Also, due to the very high water table and sandy soil, even shallow excavations in this area can collapse into themselves as the water washes the sand into the hole.
Thank you, Mr. Milton. I need you to stop there. Thank you. Okay, and we have a public speaker 4, which I think, hopefully I'll get your name correct. I think it might be wrong on our blue sheet. Is it Jared Hughes?
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, you've got 3 minutes to address the committee.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to discuss our planning application with you. We hope that we are able to ease some of the concerns raised by the neighbours to our plot and assure the committee that we have been working with Denbighshire's Planning Officer Emer O'Connor throughout the application process in order to minimise those concerns as far as reasonably possible. Firstly, by way of an introduction, we are Jared and Jade Hughes and live with our 2 children. We have lived in RHYL our whole lives, both grown up within 5 minutes walk of the plot of land that we hope to build on. We both hold respective positions in our own respective jobs, both of which are based in St. ASAPH. Regarding the concerns raised, we have discussed options with EMA with regards to satisfying Denbighshire's biodiversity requirements and have now submitted an updated plan which incorporates trees, the local wildlife, as well as birds and bat boxes to be situated on the property. The trees that we have chosen are native wild cherry trees and provide food for birds, butterflies, bees, and Nellie Stevens holly trees, which provide nesting opportunities for birds as well as winter berries. We've ensured that there is quite significant space between our windows and the neighbouring properties, with the front of our property being of similar distance to the rear of number 2 Elm Grove as that enjoyed to the front of the same property. There is to be only 1 window facing the Coast Road properties, that being a frosted bathroom window which preserves the privacy currently enjoyed by those houses. We have also ensured that we have not breached any building regulations with our building plans. We hope that you're able to approve the building of our home. It is something that we have very much been excited about since we first discussed the land purchase with then owner of number 2 Elm Grove back in March 2020. The outline planning, which was in place when we bought the property and was applied for by Ms Hutchinson, provided the basis of this full application and had no objections. The position of the house on the outline planning to the full planning has not actually changed, so the privacy to 2 Elm Grove is no different to the application which she made. Finally, the property that we intend to build will be our home. It will provide our family with the home that we intend to live in forever and ensures that our children remain close to their respective schools, whilst also allowing us to remain in the town that has been our home for our entire lives. We thank you for the time this morning and the opportunity to give you some understanding as to who we are and our intention for the application. We hope that we have satisfied the requirements needed for you to approve our plans and hopefully begin this very exciting time for our family. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, do officers want to come in on this initially? No. Okay, so we'll go to members. We'll go to if the local member would like to come in first, Councillor Tony Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll just outline this project and I'll come back at the end if there's anything that needs clarifying, if I may, please.
That's fine.
Yeah. This proposal is to erect a dwelling on a site where there has already been an existing planning permission in place. Looking forward to family life and lives. The youngest child is in Uscal Bryn Headed and the eldest is in RHYL High School. Both schools are a short walk from this plot. The access road is indeed narrow, but there is already an existing detached house on it which has been there for many years. and Highways had no objections. I can understand why properties which back onto this development are rejected. However, appropriate building distances are given and windows will be on the sides to alleviate any issues. This application does carry office approval and meets the needs of DCC corporate plan in providing access to homes for young people and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other speakers on this item? Can't see anyone with, oh, Councillor Christine Marston.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that I'd like to propose that we go with officer recommendation and grant this planning application. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second for
I'll
that?
second that if you want, Peter Scott.
Thank you, Councillor Peter Scott. Okay, does anyone else have any comments on the item? Or I will... Councillor Tony Thomas, do you want to come have any more to say?
Sorry, Chair, I thought there might be a bit more debate than that. I don't think there's anything needs clarifying. The officers have stated everything, their recommendation, and I have outlined that. So I think I would leave it up to the councillors to make their decision when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of information on the blue sheet, so hopefully people have, I'm sure people have been through there, and yeah, the officer recommendation is clear, so that's fine. We can go to the vote on that. So again, what we'll be voting for, if it's for or blind, it will be in favour of the officer recommendation to grant, and Edbin against to go against officer recommendation and refuse the application, or Amatal abstain. Okay, so Councillor Ellichard.
Obliged.
Councillor
For.
Councillor Peter Evans.
For.
Councillor Alan James.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Lyon.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
As a local member, I'll abstain, please.
Okay. Councillor Joe Welch, for, and Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Okay, so the totals for that, all blind, for is 15, and Edbin against 0, Amatal abstain 1, therefore that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. We are actually racing through the applications, but I think we still have got 5, so even if we get through them very, very quickly, I think it still takes quite a long time. So if we just have literally a 5-minute break, that will be ideal, and try to come back before it's about 10 to 11. But if we try to get back by about 5 to 11, so we're properly up and running at 11, that would be ideal. Okay, thank you. Promptly, I think it's me that's been late. Okay, so none of the applications that we have remaining have public speakers, just so you are aware. So we'll be going back through the order of the committee, of the report. So the first one that we're going to be discussing now is going to be agenda item number 7. And agenda item number 7 is on page 81 of our reports. The ward is LLANGOLLEN. The ward members are Councillors Graham Timms and Melvin Mile. The application number is 03/2020/0472/PF. The proposal is...
Can I just... Paul Pendleton's waiting to be let back in. For some reason, he was removed from the meeting, and he is waiting now to be allowed back in. Sorry about that, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. We've let him back in. Thank you, Councillor Young. That's fine. He hasn't missed any of the debate on it, so it won't affect any voting issues. Thank you for that. So just so the application is 03/2020/0472. The proposal is the construction of a slurry lagoon and associated works. The location is Penguern Hall, Penguern, LLANGOLLEN, LL28AW. there is a little bit of information, I think, on our blue sheets. Okay, towards the end now of our blue sheets. The officer recommendation is to grant on this. And if does the local member want to come in on this, Councillor Melvin Mile?
Yes, please. Can you?
Yep, we can hear you. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Hello all. Basically, the town council objection on this was really just to flag up that there was going to be a slurry lagoon built not too far away from 2 primary schools and a residential estate. I don't think they need to bother flagging it really, because what part of slurry lagoon doesn't need flagging? They've never been asked before about a slurry lagoon, so maybe there's a point here about training town and community councils in the ways to object. Anyway, they're not experts on, or we are not experts on slurry lagoon building. Amazingly, there have been no objections from the AONB. They recommended some conditions, re-landscaping and some safety fencing. There's no objections from the NRW following an ammonia impact screening report. And as long as that is included in the list of approved plans and docs, etc. Our public protection people are tickety-boo about the whole thing. As long as all the conditions are in place before work commences. So really the experts are happy. I've spoken with Graham about it. He's happy. Got no objections to it. So they're happy, and I'm happy to propose that the application be granted subject to the conditions listed. It's ever so bright here today. Thank you.
It does look bright. Do we have a seconder for that proposal?
Shall I second that?
Councillor Alan James, thank you. Okay, I've got Councillor Mervyn Parry would like to speak on this.
Yeah, just quickly, Chair. I mean, I don't know how much you follow the on the committee, follow the news. I'm sure you do, but the Welsh Government have brought a new regulatory measure to tackle agricultural pollution out. And putting these new slurry stores, so we put a bit of a picture behind it. I don't know these people, but putting a new store up is to try and hold the slurry that the livestock they've got on that farm over the winter periods to stop the slurry being actually spread onto the agricultural land in a time where it's likely to pollute the rivers. So by having a winter storage of the manure or slurry, cow slurry probably, for the closed periods. A closed period is when they're told by National Resource Wales now you can't spread from a date. It was the 14th of October to the 1st of February. I think it's going to be something similar. So whatever that farm produces in muck slurry, as in liquid form, has to be able to store it to be able to spread it after those dates. So that's the reason probably we've got a new store here. It's to try and reduce the impact on pollution, not to create it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really useful information. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Do we have any other speakers on this item? We've obviously had a proposal for, and it's been seconded. Okay, so if we're all happy, we will go to the vote on this one. Again, this will be a vote. So if you're voting obliged for, you'd be voting to be in accordance with officer recommendation to grant. An been against would be to go against officer recommendation, to refuse the application, or a Mattel abstain. Okay, Councillor Ellichard.
To grant.
Councillor Ann Davis.
I'll abstain because I wasn't at the meeting for the full debate.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peter Evans.
For.
Councillor Alan James.
Obliged.
Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch, 4. Councillor Mark Young.
4.
Thank you. That should be Orblyde 4, 15. And Erbyn against 0. Amatel abstain 1. So therefore that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. Moving on to agenda item number 9. And again, there is some quite important information on the blue sheet here, which we'll come to in just a moment. It's on page 125 of our reports. The ward is Llanfairdyffryn Clwyd Gwyddelwen. The ward member is Councillor Hugh Evans. The application number is 10/2020/0642/PS. The proposal is the variation of conditions 2 and 3 of outline planning permission 10/2017/0330 to allow extension of time for submission of reserved matters and date of commencement of development. The location is land at Brooklyn, BRYNEGLWYS, CORWEN. And as you will see on the blue sheets, I think in similar fashion to the one that was deferred in LLANGOLLEN, you will see Natural Resources Wales have given us some late representations. The site is within a phosphate sensitive area. And as such, proposals' impact on phosphate levels in the River Dee SAC must be assessed prior to determining the application. This is with regulations that came into force on the 21st of January. Having regard to the late reps from NRW, officers request the application be deferred, but obviously we need some member involvement for that. So do members want to comment on that application, please?
I'll propose deferral, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brian Jones, and seconded.
I'll second.
Councillor, I think Bob, I saw Bob Murray's hand up there. So we'll go for Bob on this one. Thank you. So this is agenda item 9. We're not going to discuss it any further as it has been proposed and seconded to be deferred. So again, if you're all for or Orblyde, you're for deferral, and Erbyn against, you're against deferral, and Amatel abstain. Okay, so Councillor Ellichard.
For.
Councillor Ann Davis.
4.
Councillor Peter Evans.
4.
Councillor Alan James.
Orblyde.
Councillor Brian Jones.
4.
You're on mute, Brian.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Tina Jones.
4.
Councillor Christine Marston.
4.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
4.
Councillor Bob Murray.
4.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
4.
Councillor Peter Scott.
4.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
4.
Councillor Joe Welch. 4. Councillor Mark Young.
4.
Okay, so the total, the Cyfanswm Orblyde 4 is 16, and Erbyn against 0, Amatel abstain 0. Therefore, that application has been deferred. Moving on to application number 10, which is on page 151 of your reports. There is no additional information in the reports on this. In the blue sheets. So page 151, the ward is DYSERTH. The ward member is Councillor David Williams. The application number is 42/2020/0903/PO. The proposal is the development of 0.12 hectares of land by the erection of 2 detached dwellings. It's an outline application. All matters are reserved. The location is the land adjacent to CARTREFLE, FFORDD DYSERTH, RHYL LL18 6HH. As I said, there's no late information on this. I don't think the local member is here, but he has emailed me. So I will just give you a flavour of the information that the local member has sent. But he'd just like to make it clear that he's noted that he's aware and has looked at the several objections from residents of Elby Avenue to the CARTREFLE application. So if members could just be aware of those applications, those objections, and he's obviously, as a non-planning committee member, he's obviously happy to leave it up to the planning committee to make their decision as they see fit. Okay. And if he was here, he would have to declare a personal interest as he owns a property nearby, just so we're aware of that with those comments from the local member. Okay, does anyone have any comments? Anyone want to, if you do have comments, then please unmute and speak.
I propose
Thank you, Councillor Bob Murray. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Mervyn Parry, I think, seconded that. The officer recommendation, as we can see, is also to grant. Okay, so we don't need to do anything further than that on this. So if we are happy with that and nobody else has any comments on this item, then we will go to the vote. So again, this is Orblyde will be 4, and this is to be in accordance with officer recommendation to grant planning. An Erbyn against will be to go against officer recommendation to refuse planning permission. Okay, and a Matal abstain obviously is an option as well. Councillor Ellichard.
Oblight.
Councillor Andy.
4.
Councillor Peter Evans.
4.
Councillor Alan James.
Obliged.
Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
4.
Councillor Christine Marston.
4.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
4.
Councillor Bob Murray.
4.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. 4. Councillor Paul Penlington. 4. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
4.
Councillor Peter Scott.
4.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
4.
Councillor Joe Welch. 4. Councillor Mark Young.
4.
Okay, so the Cavanson total or Blythe 4 is 16, and Erbyn against is 0, and Matel abstain is 0 as well. Therefore, that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. Moving on, we have 2 applications left, both in the same ward and both at the same address, but obviously both need to be considered on their own merits. So agenda item number 13 is on page 221 of your reports. The ward is Tremechion. The ward member is Councillor Christine Marston. The application number is 47/2020/0271/PF. The proposal is the erection of 1 dwelling, formation of a new vehicular access, installation of a septic tank and associated works. The location is the land at and parked garden of GLANRAFON, Rhyath, St Asaph, LL17 0TD. Officer recommendation is to grant, and this is coming to committee as there's been an objection from the town council, community council, Tremechion Cwm and Wine Community Council. So I'll bring in the local member for this, Councillor Christine Marston.
Thank you, Chair. GLANRAFON is.
Oh, we're having trouble hearing you.
Application is for the development.
Do you want to start again? Sorry, Christine. Do you want to start again? Sorry, you were very. Can't hear you very well. Sorry.
Shall I?
Try your camera off. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, committee, I'll start again. GLANRAFON is a grade 2, 3-storey high listed building set in the heart of Rhyath on the boundary of the AONB. The application is for the development of an executive house in the garden of GLANRAFON. The application has been brought to committee due to concerns raised by Tremechion Cwm and Wine Community Council with regards to the impact on the grade 2 GLANRAFON and highway safety. There has been a previous application on this site for 2 affordable dwellings submitted in May 2013. This application did not proceed and was withdrawn due to the conservation officer at the time having several reservations. Highway officers also had concern with regard to visibility on the highway and parking. The proposed development will have an overbearing impact on GLANRAFON. Despite it only being 2-storey, the ridge height is higher than that of GLANRAFON. Officers have also recommended that the windows on the first floor of the new development that face the side of Glanravon be obscured glass. Such is the proximity to the listed building. DCC Conservation Officer raises no concern following the amendments of the plan. In his opinion, it would not have a detrimental impact to the listed building. But the Conservation Officer does acknowledge that the development is large compared to the plot size and recommends that permitted development rights are removed due to visual amenity and to preserve the setting of a listed building. This just goes to show how tight the plot is. I disagree with the officers and completely agree with Tremation Cwm Wine Community Council, who feel that it will have an overbearing impact on the listed building and it will affect the visual amenity and the setting of a historical building in its contribution to the local scene. DCC highway officers have also done a site visit, and although the recommended visual distance on entering a highway are not achieved, this is acceptable. I totally disagree. The 30-mile-an-hour sign is situated on the boundary of Glanravon, and the recommended distance as stated in TAN 18 in a 30-mile-an-hour speed restriction is 40 metres. What is achieved in the proposed new entrance is 28 metres to the south, which is towards RHYLT, and 22 metres to the north, which is towards CORWEN. Surely the guidelines are there to be adhered to, and the planning application is this a creation of a new access onto the highway? It must be of a safe standard. The proposed new vehicle entrance for the new dwelling is in a very close proximity to the main junction with a B5429, and something that the highway officers have not commented on. This application is a very large development on a minimum plot, but will have detrimental impact on a listed building with poor access to the highway. I therefore would like to propose going against officer recommendation and refuse this application due to visual amenity, a large dwelling having an overbearing impact on a listed building, which is TAN 24 historic environment, and highway safety, inefficient visual displays on entering the highway and in close proximity to a junction, TAN 18. Thank you, Chair. I hope you heard that.
No, it's fine. It was loud and clear, and I'm pretty sure those are perfectly valid material planning reasons for refusal. So that's a proposal to refuse. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
So, Councillor
Peter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure there'll be some other speakers on it, but we just need to clarify that. So we've got the two reasons for refusal, and we've got the proposer and the seconder. Okay, so that's all sorted. Councillor Mervyn Parry.
With both applications coming in together, I was just concerned of why the application for the house came first and the exit came second, because if the next one is refused and the house gets granted now, I would have thought it might have been better to put it in, see if we can get the gateway first and then build the house, rather than have the house there with no gate to get in or out. It was just a question.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm not sure whether officers want to come in on that as to the order of why they've come in this way.
Yeah, I can do, Chair. Thank you very much. I mean, the two distinct applications that you've got here. The first one is to try and establish the development of the land for a single dwelling, which needs planning permission, and therefore you've got planning application before you for that with an officer recommendation to grant. The second application is specific because it's in the grounds of a listed building, so they're proposing to actually remove a wall to create the access. So the removal of the wall actually needs listed building consent. It doesn't need the planning permission as such. So just to clarify with Councillor Parry, they're two distinct applications. One's for planning permission, one's for listed building consent for the removal of the wall. I take his point that obviously if the first application to build the dwelling and have the access in at that particular location is refused, then they're not going to need to remove the wall and impact on the listed building. So the two are distinct, inextricably linked. But we had to choose which one to put up first, and we chose this one. Thank you, Chair.
There you go. Thank you.
Can I just ask the question? Is there another access to this house if that wall was refused? Is there another entrance to build the house? So if they get the planning permission on this one and the other one doesn't go ahead, is there an entrance for the house? That's why I was questioning the.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think again we have to assess what's before us here. The proposal is to provide the access in at that particular location to serve a new dwelling. I don't know whether there would be a feasible access location to serve a new dwelling as is cited on the proposal. So, but I do have to remind members that we've got to assess the proposal as is shown, both in terms of the plan and application and the listed building consent. If they choose to try and create a separate access into a particular plot, that would be the subject of a different plan and application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple more speakers on this item. I've got Councillor Anne Davis. You're on mute, Anne, sorry. I can see Councillor Bob Murray's hand up as well, so I'll bring you in a minute.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. I feel strongly, we should be protecting our listed buildings in Denbighshire. Over the years, I've seen far too many disappear, particularly in Rhuthin here. It's quite confusing now. As I understand it, planning permission was refused in 2013. So what's changed? Why are you able to grant planning, put forward for granting now, 8 years later? We see here that it's obscured glass that's been used in a Grade 2 listed building. I don't see anything from CADU. Have CADU made any comments? Do they need to make a comment here? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Jones.
Sorry, Chair, I dropped my hand down.
Okay, no problem. Councillor Bob Murray.
Yeah, I just want to ask on the obscure glass they're asking for. What rooms? I hope they're not rooms other than toilets and bathrooms.
Okay, thank you. Do officers want to come in on the points from Councillor Davis and Bob Murray?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think as was alluded to by Councillor Christine Marston when she gave her speech, there was a previous application that was withdrawn. It wasn't refused, it was withdrawn application. That was for 2 dwellings on this site, 2 affordable dwellings from my recollection. So this is a completely different scheme. This is for a single dwelling. And just for clarity, that previous application was withdrawn. So there's the difference on that one. I think, yeah, what I will say while I've got the opportunity here, obviously in relation to the proposed development that we've got, there's 2 issues here that I think Councillor Christine Marston's raised, and I must applaud Councillor Marston for her speech and also for reference to technical advice notes. They are valid reasons to refuse the application, impact on the listed building and impact on highway safety. What officers will always say to members where they're going against officer recommendation is you need to sort of think of the clear evidence to go against the officer recommendation on those 2 points. So I think the first point in relation to the impact on the listed building, Councillor Marston did outline that our own conservation officer has looked at this in quite a bit of detail and feels that there is not going to be any negative impact on the listed building. Clearly, by putting a dwelling in the grounds of this listed building in this location, there's going to be some impact, but we have to assess whether it's significant and whether it's enough to refuse planning permission. There is a slight difference in level on this site. So Councillor Marston, I think, pointed out that there's an issue with where the actual new dwelling is going to be located. It's going to be slightly higher, in a slightly higher position than the listed building. But again, if members had some concerns about that, you could always look to impose an additional condition so that we can actually deal with finished floor levels of the building, so that they might be able to dig down into the ground a little bit up to set the new dwelling in. But I think looking at the plans, it's around about 1 metre just over a metre higher in terms of the ground level where the new dwelling would be built. But again, I've got to point out that the Conservation Officer has looked at that and feels as though that's an acceptable impact. Councillor Murray obviously then raised the issue about obscure glazing within the proposed new dwelling. And again, that's on the sort of side elevation that's going to be facing towards the listed building. And the windows that the obscure glass are going to be going in looks to me like it's going to be bathroom windows on the upper floor level. So I think the issue really that you've got is two reasons for refusal have been put forward by Councillor Christine Marston. They're both valid planning reasons. On the first one, impact on the listed building, what members will have to make a judgment on is, have you got enough evidence that that impact is so significant to go against your own Conservation Officer? And the second issue in relation to the proposed access on the road adjacent to the site, have you got enough evidence to go against your own highway engineers who feel as though that location for this single dwelling would be acceptable? And I think they're the two issues that you're going to have to debate around the proposal that Councillor Marston has raised. I think what I will point out though is that, you know, from a local perspective, the issue around highway safety and the potential issue of that new junction, that you know, people locally can provide evidence if they feel as though that junction is particularly busy, if they feel that vehicles are travelling along that road at fast speeds, that this particular location of the new access is in a particular dangerous position. Our highway engineers don't think that's the case, but locally people might have a different opinion, and that's very valid. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So with that in mind, I'll just go back to the local member, just to ensure you're happy with exactly as you've outlined for those two reasons. And then if anyone else wants to speak.
Yes, Chair. I am happy. It's just to reiterate that this dwelling that is proposed is a very large.
Turn off your camera again. Sorry, Christine.
Sorry, Chair. I
There you
keep
go.
breaking up. Just to reiterate that it is a very large executive home being proposed in a very sort of tight garden, which is part of a listed building. And I do feel that it does have an overbearing impact on the listed building. And the highways does not come near the guidelines set out by 1018. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Markham.
Thank you, Chair. It was 2 points. The first one is it was mentioned about the height of the building because there's a feeling it's overbearing on the listed building, which I do have concerns about. So can we put that in a condition? How would it be worded? Because officers quite often talk about the impact of buildings, and they have done today on the first application, which got deferred, the bungalow. So I would be happier if we can put a condition there. So how would that read? And is it definitely enforceable? And I'm going to just touch on what Councillor Parry brought in. I don't like applications coming in like this, and we've had it in Melodin, we've had it here now. I would implore officers not to do it. It just looks bad and it's very confusing. I need to say that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ann Davis, did you want to come in again? Yeah, you need to unmute again.
Can I have an answer on the CADU, please? Were CADU consulted and what was their response?
Okay, thank you. I'll bring in Paul Mead on those points. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, thanks, Anna. Apologies for missing that last point in relation to CADU. CADU will have to adjudicate on the listed building consent application for the removal of the wall. That's within their remit. We can't grant that planning, that listed building consent application without consultation with CADU in relation to the removal of the wall. In relation to the planning application, in terms of the impact on the listed building, that's delegated to our own Conservation Officer to deal with. That's not a CADU issue. CADU deal with the actual listed building consent application, which will be the removal of the wall. So in this instance, you're going to have to either go along with the Conservation Officer's comments, your own Conservation Officer's comments, as we haven't got any comments from CADU on the particular proposal for the dwelling. Thank you.
Thank you. Got Councillor Ellie Chard.
Chair, can you answer my questions first, please?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to support Councillor Mark Young's proposal, well, the amendment
Okay.
to lowering the building. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just get that clarified.
Yeah, sorry, Mark, I'll come back on that. Yeah, we could condition finished floor levels here. I think on the plan that's been submitted, it does show, I think it's about 1.14 metres is the difference in ground level. What we could do, we'd put a condition on to say that development shall not commence until further details of floor levels submitted to and approved by the local planning authority. What then would happen is they could come back in and say, well, we still want it 1.14 metres above ground level, and then we'd maybe bring that back to planning committee. But I think we'd probably speak to them and ask them to lower that if we put that condition on. And I think, yeah, the point made there by Councillor Parry and yourself in terms of the two separate applications, it's quite difficult really, where we've got an application for listed building consent and an application for planning permission. We've got to bring them before planning committee and choose which one to put first. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there are some other speakers, but just to be, yeah, that's clear. So hopefully that answers those 2 points in terms of putting an amendment on it. Councillor Paul Penlington.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, I've listened to the debate carefully, and I've been studying the plans backwards and forwards as the debate's gone on. And I can't see any problem with it, really. I would be quite happy to go with the officer recommendation. It's not, it's next to a listed building, but it's not imposing on it as such. I don't know if it's too late to propose that we just go with officer recommendations and let it go as it is. Can I do that?
You can propose it, and if it can be seconded, if somebody wants to second it.
I'll go with officer recommendations as stated then.
Okay. Does anyone want to second that? You're going to need, if anyone does, they need to unmute and say so. It doesn't oh, Councillor Alan James has, thank you.
In view of the comments that Mark Young has made in terms of the height of the building and that condition, can that be included in the recommendation of Paul Penlington? Would that help in some way in this instance?
Yeah. Okay, so we can. Well, actually, can you just explain that to committee? So I'll just bring in Tim, the legal officer, just to explain how that would all work.
Yeah, just to try and make this neat and tidy. In relation to this proposed amendment with a condition in support of officer's recommendation for approval, the proposer can either tweak the motion, so they would repeat the motion, but if they want to include the condition amendment, add that. It's known as tweaking the motion, or alternatively there will be a secondary motion put across for discussion first to resolve the condition. The easiest way to deal with this would be for the proposer to reiterate and add that to their proposition, which is then seconded. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that would just come back to Councillor Paul Penlington. Would you want to put that into your proposal to grant with the amendment of with the lower level, or not?
I'll propose that.
Okay.
For the sake of moving on.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Mark Young. Thank you. Okay, I'll just bring in Paul Mead as well.
Can I just come in? I missed what Paul said, so I'm sorry. Sorry, what did you say, Paul?
Yes, he said he was happy to propose that with the lower level.
Just for clarity, Chair, I think what we've got to be careful of here is not necessarily specifying a lower level. I think what we would do, as I explained to Councillor Young, is we put a condition on to say that prior to the commencement of any development, the applicant will need to show to us details of finished floor levels. It's then within our gift if they come back and show finished floor levels the same as they've shown them now or higher. then obviously we're going to still have that concern, aren't we? But I think if they show the finished floor levels at the same level or lower than GLANRAFON, then I think that addresses the issue. So I don't think we want to be specifying finished floor levels. I think what we would do is we would ask the applicant to show finished floor levels before they start any development. Thank you.
Yep, no, that's clear. Okay, thank you. If we don't have any more speakers on this, oh, do Councillor Christy Marston want to come back in? You're on mute, Christine. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. What it is, just for clarity, that the officers is requesting that the whole building be dropped. Is that what you're suggesting with saying that you can put in a condition to reduce the floor level? What is the sort of connotations of that? Is that you're expecting the whole building to be dropped? And surely that is quite a major difference in an application. We're always being reminded we can always make a judgment on what is in front of us, and that's how it stands. This is the application, how it stands. And now, as I'm interpreting it, you're recommending that we drop the building. Please add clarity. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just bring in Paul Mead for that one, just to clear it up.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think in relation to Councillor Marston's point there, I think in relation to the plan as submitted, we do have plans that have been submitted by the applicant here to show the levels on the site and the level of the GLANRAFON property in relation to the level of the new property. As I'd said before, it's showing on the existing plan that the proposed property is around 1.14 metres in difference of the sort of the ground levels. So what we would be looking to do is saying, notwithstanding that submitted plan, we would be looking for further details of finished floor levels. And then I think what we could do, Councillor Marston, is if they then submit further details of finished floor levels that are different from what they've shown in their current plans, we could liaise with either the local member on that and come to a decision on whether we feel that those finished floor levels are acceptable, or if we wanted to, we could actually bring details of that condition back to planning committee. So you could have another debate because we've got the details of the finished floor levels. There'd be clarity then in terms of the difference in heights. And planning committee could make that judgment then as to whether they feel those finished floor levels are acceptable. I think that's the way to go, and I think our legal officer probably accept that in terms of a way forward. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So just going back to the person that proposed that, which is Councillor Paul Penlington, the option is it can either then be delegated to officers to discuss with the local member, or it can come back to full planning.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yes. I would probably like to go with what Paul said, that they look at the floor levels and what have you, and then bring it back to full planning at a later date. Okay.
And that's happy with the seconder, which was Councillor Mark Young. Yeah. In support of the application. But, so yeah, so in support of the application and coming back to committee with the details of that suggestion. Okay, so we've had obviously quite clear proposals for and against, so I think we can go to the vote now, unless we haven't got anyone else to speak, I don't think. So for this one, I'll try and be as clear as possible, and somebody in the chamber will shout at me if I say anything wrong, hopefully. So for this one, if you vote obliged for, you are voting in accordance with officer recommendation with the proposal that Councillor Paul Penlington has put forward, with where the plans will come back to committee specifically regarding heights. If you vote an admin against, you are going with what Councillor Christine Marston has said, proposed, and that has been seconded. And that is for the two reasons for refusal. One, around the impact on the listed building, and secondly, on highways. And obviously there is the third option of abstain amateur. Okay, so Councillor Ellie Chard.
Obliged.
Thank you.
For.
Davis.
Against.
Councillor Peter Evans.
Against.
Councillor Alan James.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
Against.
Councillor Christine Marston.
Against.
Councillor Melvin Lyle.
Against.
Councillor Bob Murray.
Against.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
Against.
Councillor Peter Scott.
Against.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Joe Welch. Against. Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Thank you. Okay, so the totals we have for this one is Orblyde 4, against 12, Amato abstain 0. Therefore, that application has been refused against officer recommendation. Okay, so we're moving on to agenda item number 14, which is the last item that we have on page 255 of our reports. So the ward is Tremechion, the ward member is Councillor Christine Marston, the application number is 47/2020/0272/LB. The proposal is the removal of part of walls of form and access, the listed building application. The location is the Landa and Park Garden of GLANRAFON, RHYLT, St ASAPH. So the officer recommendation on this one is to grant, and again, this has obviously had coming to committee as it has had a community council objection. So do officers want to come in on this initially?
Yeah, I'll just for clarity, Chair, thank you. This obviously is a listed building consent application. With a listed building consent application, what you would need to be doing is looking at whether the proposal to remove a section of the wall has a negative or impact on the listed building or not. The issue in relation to the creation of the access and the building of the dwelling on this site, you've just determined previously and refused that. So what you can't really do here in terms of a reason for refusal on the listed building consent application is just say, well, there's no need for them to remove the wall now. What we have to do is assess the removal of the wall on its merits in relation to the impact on the listed building. Obviously, as I'd said before to Councillor Ann Davis, if we were going to grant the removal of this wall, we would have to go to CADU anyway. CADU would have to look at this before any consent could be given for the removal of the wall. It is questionable now as to whether the applicant will go ahead and just remove the wall for the hell of it, because he's not got planning permission for a dwelling on the site now or the creation of the access. So it might be irrelevant anyway, but I just want to alert members to the fact that in determining this listed building consent application, you do have to assess whether the removal of the wall has a negative impact on the listed building only. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, local member, Councillor Christine Marston.
Thank you, Chair. The second application for GLANRAFON is removal of part of a boundary wall to form access onto the highway, and access which is well below standard. I would like to propose going against officer recommendation and refuse this planning application due to visual amenity that the stone wall contributes to the curtilage and setting of a listed building and contributes to the significance of a building and its contribution to the local scene. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that as well, Chair. Thank you. Peter Scott.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's clearly a material planning consideration. Councillor Bob Murray, have you got your hand up?
Yeah. Listen to this now. Could we not defer it until CADU make their contribution towards it?
I'll bring in officers, but I don't think so. But
I mean, it's within members' gift at this planning committee to choose to grant, refuse, or defer any application, really. I don't think deferral on this particular item would take matters any further, I think you've got to assess as a planning committee whether the removal of this section of wall, as I said before, is having a negative impact on the listed building. I think Councillor Marston's given a valid reason to go against officer recommendation on this one, and I tend to think that unless they get planning permission to build the new house anyway, this is a bit of an irrelevance, really, because I don't think they'll choose to take down the wall in any case. So yeah, I don't think deferral will take us any further, Bob. Thank you.
No, but fine, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, perfectly good question. Councillor Paul Penlington.
Presumably taking the wall down was associated with the last application. If we voted against taking the wall down now, would that bar them putting a further application in the future, because they're quite likely to come back with a different plan, I would have thought, because I don't want to say, no, you can't take the wall down and then block them from doing anything forevermore.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point, and that's why they are two separate applications. So yeah, I think officers, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, no, it is a very valid point. Again, Paul, in relation to the removal of the wall, I think if we refuse the removal of the wall now as a planning committee on the reason that we feel as though the loss of this part of the wall is having an unacceptable impact on the listed building, they could come forward with another planning application further down the line, or revised planning application for the house. And that will probably include some sort of new access, and will probably involve the removal of some part of a wall again. I think what you'd have to do is deal with that new application on its merits. The removal of the wall, might be able to be mitigated by some other means in terms of the replacement of a wall somewhere else, or dealing with the access in a slightly different way. But I think it is a valid point. I think if this planning committee refuses the listed building consent for the removal of the wall based on the impact on the listed building, it might be quite difficult for them to come back then with a new proposal and overcome that reason for refusal. But they've got an opportunity to do it. We'll have to look at a fresh application on its merits. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's important that this is taken on its own merits, and as Councillor, the local member has, obviously the reason for refusal is very specific to the wall and its impact on the current listed building, and not relevant to the previous application. But obviously they are inextricably linked. Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Thank you, Chair. I think going back to what Paul said, I think we've got to respect the applicants on this one. They've put an application in, paid for it for their application, and we've got to deal with it as it is. I'm sure, given the position of this plot, that the applicants will probably come back with a different plan for the area. CADU, as we've mentioned, as has been mentioned earlier, will have an involvement with the removal of this wall if it be granted, and would probably condition that the stone and the look of the wall will be maintained to how it is, or very similar to how it is with a similar stone, or if not the same stone. So I wouldn't just say let's refuse it for the sake of refusing it. We've got to respect the applicant for putting the application in.
Yes, yeah, no, it's a very important point that to make, because this is a separate application, and as a couple of people have said, should they put in a further application for a house, then they would still need this access. So we can't just refuse it on the grounds that the previous one was refused, and I think the local member has made that clear with her recommendation as well. So thank you for all that. Do we have any other speakers? We've obviously had a proposal to go against. We've had the valid planning reason. So if we're happy, we will go to the vote on this. So just to make it very clear, if you are obliged for, you are voting to grant the listed building consent in accordance with officer recommendation. If you vote an Edwin against, you are voting against officer recommendation. And the reason for refusal is, as Councillor Christine Marston outlined, with the impact on the listed building. And obviously a Matal abstain is an option as well. Okay, so we will go to the vote. Councillor Ellie Chard.
Against.
Councillor Ann Davis.
Against.
Councillor Peter Evans. He may have gone. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Alan James. Councillor Brian Jones. Councillor Tina Jones.
Against.
Councillor Christine Marston.
Against.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
Against.
Councillor Bob Murray.
Against.
Councillor Melvin Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
Against.
Councillor Peter Scott.
Against.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Joe Welch. I'm for this one, and I think Councillor Mark Young has also left. So we have, for this one, the Cyfanswm total or Blaid is 4, in Erbyn 10, and nobody abstained. Therefore, that application has been refused against officer recommendation for the reasons outlined by the local member. Okay, there we go. It's not even that late. It's not even lunchtime. I think we're through it all. I don't think there's any other items. There's no other reports or anything like that. So thank you very much. Managed to get through that one. I think next month's going to be pretty large as well, based on the fact we've had 3 deferrals today. And I know there were a couple of other ones that were due to come today that sort of got put back as well. So be prepared for a sort of a good session next month in March as well. But thank you very much, and we will see you later. Councillor Alan James, if you want to just stay on, and if everyone else leaves, then we can continue the sort of post meeting. But if everyone else can leave, that would be great.
Cheerio, bye-bye.
Bye.